Choosing a cat food can be a very daunting task, but in this video I am going to rank several of the most popular cat foods on the market and tell you whether these are good or bad. Now the first thing I want to go into is the whole prey ratios. It is very simple. Cats are obligate carnivores. What this simply means is that they have no dietary requirement for any carbohydrates whatsoever. Whether that's rice or vegetables or anything else, your cat is only adept to eating meat and should only eat meat. Now, if your cat were in the wild or outside and they were to catch a mice, the proportions of the mouse would be roughly 80-10-10, where 80% is lean meat, 10% is offal, 5% of that is liver, and 10% is bone. And obviously these percentages do give or take. Now they would eat absolutely everything. They would eat all the tendons, all the connective tissue, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, everything. They would eat absolutely everything. So any cat food you buy, in theory, should try to replicate, should try to mimic what your cat would eat in the wild. The very problem with cat food, especially dry cat food, is that in order for the pellets to be pellets, they have to be combined with a starch in order for the meat to bind. So any dry kibble you feed your cat is going to really have to be bound together by a carbohydrate. Now there are pretty good carbohydrates and there are horrible carbohydrates. So in this video we will be going from pretty poor to pretty good in terms of cat food. The first cat food we are going to look at is the Diamond Natural Active Chicken Meal and Rice Formula Dry cat food. Now I am always pretty skeptical whenever I see rice on bags of pet food. In my opinion, rice is a cheap binder, is a cheap filler and should never be in pet food, and I will tell you why. Rice expands when you cook it. If you make a curry at home, that rice will expand. It may be double or it may be treble. That's why whenever some manufacturers say with a little bit of rice, it is very likely that that rice proportion is a lot higher. Now rice is hard to digest, it's not biologically appropriate, and it's not an ingredient I like to see in dog or cat food because again it is not biologically appropriate. Now the ingredients here are chicken meal, which is okay, ground white rice, which is a big no-no for me, chicken fat, which is okay, natural flavor, which is unspecific, flaxseed, ground miscanthus grass, that's pretty good, a bit of sodium, and then they add other bits and bobs like potassium and taurine and dry chicory root and all that sort of stuff. Now the main thing I don't like about this food is the white rice. I do like that they include chicken meal and chicken fat, but I don't like the natural flavor. So in my opinion, this one wouldn't be the one for my cat. The second one is the Victor Healthy Skin and Coat Indoor Grain Free. Now, there's a very interesting thing whenever pet food manufacturers tell you that a specific bag of food is for a specific condition or for a specific type of cat. Cats are carnivores. Whether the cat is indoor, outdoor, has urinary problems, has diabetes, they're fat, whatever the case might be, the diet should always be precisely very similar among cats. We can change fat contents, we can change percentages if the cat has a problem such as chronic pancreatitis or chronic diabetes, for example. But in reality, what you are trying to see is if the cat food is good or bad. So whatever they say on the front of the bag, you ignore that and you check the ingredients. Now, Victor, the nutritional information is fish meal, which is okay, peas, which is okay, chicken fat, natural flavor, sweet potato, dehydrated salmon, dehydrated alfalfa meal, yeast culture, and a bunch of other preservatives and ingredients. Now, there are things I like and there are things I don't like. They seem to have chosen peas and they seem to have chosen sweet potato as binders to the kibble, and those are better carbohydrates in the grand scheme of things than your wheat, your barley, your corn, or your rice. The only thing I don't like about this is the natural flavor and the fact that peas are the second ingredient. I would have liked to have fish and chicken fat as the first ingredients and everything else to be as minimum as possible. So in my opinion, this is slightly better than the one we reviewed before, but not quite what I would like to see in a premium food. The third one I have here is the Dr. Elsie's Clean Protein Chicken Kibble Dried Cat Food. And the ingredients are chicken, hydrolyzed pork. Hydrolyzation is pretty interesting. You break down molecules with water in order for the body to absorb them a lot better. It has been shown to be a bit more palatable, to make things a bit more palatable for dogs and cats. That's why a lot of kibbles introduce it. And as well as being somewhat okay whenever we talk about allergies, because the body cannot really tell whether the hydrolysis comes from chicken, whether the protein comes from chicken, from beef, or whatever, because it's already broken down with water. That's what that means. So hydrolyzed pork, pork plasma, gelatin, chicken fat, ground flaxseed, natural flavor, salmon oil, etc., etc. We see some pretty good ingredients here and we see some others that aren't all that good. I am not a fan of the natural flavor bit. I am not a fan of the gelatin, and I am a big fan of chicken and hydrolyzed pork, and even to the pork plasma to a certain extent. So these would be one of the better ones. Now we see that 95% of the protein is animal based in this kibble, which is pretty good. We want to be paying for protein coming from meat, not coming from potatoes and not coming from anything else. We want our protein to come from chicken, from beef, from salmon, from meat sources. That's what costs money, and that's what you and your cat need. The third one is the Meow Mix Original Choice Dry Cat Food, and we have a pretty cute cat on the front of the bag, but we are interested in the ingredients. The ingredients are ground yellow corn as the first ingredient. The second ingredient is corn gluten meal. The third ingredient is chicken byproduct meal, and then we get into the soybean meals, beef tallow, animal digest, calcium carbonate, turkey byproduct meal, and salmon meal. Now, there are a few big red flags whenever we see cat foods with ground yellow corn and corn gluten meal as the first ingredients. Again, our cats are carnivores and they cannot break down, cannot convert a lot of these carbohydrates, a lot of these high glycemic carbohydrates into sugar. So in my opinion, it is a lot better for us to avoid these types of food because they aren't biologically appropriate and they are not the most appropriate for your cat. We then move on to IAMS, and I have the Proactive Health Indoor Weight and Hairball Care. Again, a lot of these are just marketing labels. Whether your cat has hairballs or is indoor or outdoor, or it says weight control on the front, what we are interested in is the actual quality of the food. Now, the ingredients are chicken, which is good, chicken byproduct meal, which is quite vague. It's not chicken, it's chicken byproduct meal, which is a pretty rendered process. It's a pretty rendered ingredient in my opinion. We then get into the corn grits, corn gluten meal, ground whole grain corn, ground whole grain sorghum, dried plant beet pulp, turkey, powdered cellulose, natural flavor. Again, that's very, very unspecific, the natural flavor, and something I do not like to see in cat food. What do I think about IAMS? I am not on board with corn grits, I am not on board with corn gluten meal, and I'm not on board with ground whole grain corn. This would be a big pass for me. We then move on to a pretty controversial brand. It's the Aana Bountiful Catch, and is the high protein adult dry cat food. Now, Aana, it belongs to Champion Pet Foods out of Canada, and in recent times they have been acquired by Mars, and Mars are one of the big three in the pet food industry. A lot of people despise them, but a lot of people buy their products, and they are notorious for buying brands up and changing ingredients and changing recipes. And my argument with Aana and Origin is that if those brands are as good as they were when they came out of the market, when they came out with their whole prey ratios and those sets of ingredients so good, it does not make sense for that company to change the ingredients. So that is my only hope. In reality, we are giving our cat salmon meal, catfish meal, oatmeal, whole peas, catfish oil, lentils, herring, chickpeas, catfish, natural salmon flavor, which is okay, and then lentil fiber, rainbow trout, salmon oil, cranberries, etc, etc. We see a pretty good set of ingredients. Salmon is a yes, salmon meal is a yes, catfish meal is a yes and is a novel protein. We then get into oatmeal, which yes is a carbohydrate, but it's a low glycemic carbohydrate. If you eat porridge in the morning, you will find that for a very good few hours you will not feel hungry, and you won't feel hungry because the digestion is a lot slower than if you were to eat something like cornflakes, for example, for breakfast. So that is the difference whenever we talk about carbohydrates in cat food. We then get into catfish oil, lentils, herring, chickpeas, and catfish. What do I think about Aana Bountiful Catch and the derivatives? They are still pretty good. We go into Origin. Again, Origin, this is the grain-free dry cat food. Whether they say grain-free or indoor or whatever, what we are interested in is the actual list of ingredients. And the ingredients are chicken, turkey, whole herring, turkey giblets, liver, heart, gizzard, salmon, dehydrated chicken, dehydrated turkey, dehydrated salmon, dehydrated chicken, liver, dehydrated egg, whole red lentils, whole pinto beans, chicken liver, eggs, chicken fat, chicken hearts, whole peas, pollock oil, navy beans, lentil fiber. Those all sound like pretty good ingredients. Not only they sound like pretty good ingredients, they sound a lot like the whole prey ratios. Remember if my cat is outside and they eat a rodent or a small mammal, they would eat the whole thing. Well, Origin here seem to have included a lot of those tidbits that in my opinion are so good whenever it comes to cat and dog food as well. We see turkey giblets, we see liver and heart and gizzard, and we see things like dehydrated chicken liver, and those are pretty good ingredients in my book. What do I think about Origin? Origin is a pretty good cat food in my opinion. The next cat food we are looking at is the American Journey salmon recipe, and this is a grain-free cat food, and the ingredients are deboned salmon, which is pretty good. It's not just the salmon they are giving you the deboned salmon, and that is pretty good. Whenever we see very specific ingredients, we know that the manufacturer now has to abide by that set of ingredients. So there's something like turkey meal. Turkey meal is quite vague, where the deboned salmon is a lot more specific, and I like specificity because at the end of the day I want my cat to have a pretty specific diet and I want to know where the ingredients are coming from. We then get into the salmon meal again, which is a bit more unspecific, that deboned salmon, tapioca starch, we get fish meal, dried egg product, pea protein, peas, natural flavor, canola oil, pea fiber, etc, etc. I am pretty torn whenever it comes to this food. Why am I torn? Because I do enjoy the specificity in cat food whenever it comes to ingredients. I like the deboned salmon, I like the salmon meal, I like fish meal, I like egg product. I would prefer it to be egg and not egg product. I do not like the tapioca starch. That's quite a high glycemic carbohydrate in my opinion, and I am torn about the pea protein. Why am I torn about the pea protein? Because when you cook salmon, salmon does shrink. So if I put 50% salmon in an ingredients list, it is likely to be maybe 40, maybe 35, maybe 47% salmon. That salmon is going to shrink. So they are trying to supplement the protein they give you in the bag with pea protein, and I am not a fan of that. So I would just leave this on the counter and not buy it. American Journey, it's a pretty give or take kind of dog food, and what I see for the price, it's not really worth it in my opinion. We then go into Crave, another pretty popular brand of cat food. Crave with protein from chicken and salmon, indoor adult grain-free cat food. To the ingredients, we have chicken meal, we have pea protein, we have split peas, chicken fat, we have tapioca, plain beet pulp, potato protein, salmon meal, natural flavor, etc, etc. What do I like? I like chicken meal. I like chicken fat, and I like the salmon meal. What do I not like? I don't like pea protein. I want my protein to come from protein sources. I don't like my potato protein because of the same reason as before, and I do not like the tapioca. Tapioca is quite a high glycemic carbohydrate. So whenever we talk about grain-free foods, we want our carbohydrates to be as minimal as possible, and for those carbohydrates to be as low in the glycemic index as possible. So again, no pea starch, no potato, and nothing too high in the glycemic index, because that is what's best for your cat. Let's move on to Applause, and this is the adult complete chicken recipe with country vegetables, and this is a grain-free cat food, and the ingredients are chicken meal, chickpeas, lentils, peas, flaxseed, natural flavor, taurine, etc, etc. So we see a very minimal set of ingredients, which is quite good. Whenever you see a small list of ingredients, that's a lot better than too many ingredients, unless those too many ingredients are all world-class ingredients. But if you have 5 good ingredients, those are a lot better than 10 mediocre ingredients. So chicken and chicken meal are pretty good ingredients. Chickpeas, lentils, peas, flaxseed, and natural flavor. I am not a fan of natural flavor. That natural flavor could be absolutely anything, and I would not be a fan of that. But I like the chicken and I like the chicken meal. What do I think? This is a give or take. For the price, it is okay. We then get into Earthborn, and this is the holistic primitive feline grain-free dry cat and kitten food. And this is important because a lot of these manufacturers are telling you that you should go from kitten food to adult cat food, and to be fair, you shouldn't. A good food should be fed, or could be fed, from kitten to adulthood to senior, all the way through. So whether you have a kitten food or an adult cat food, the food should be equally as good for all life stages. The food is either good or is bad. That is it, my friend. We see turkey meal, chicken meal, peas, chicken fat. We have pea starch, pea protein, natural flavors, pea fiber, dried eggs, whiting meal, apples, blueberries, cranberries, carrots, spinach, etc., etc. What do I think about this food? I like turkey meal and chicken meal. I am not so much a fan of peas, pea starch, and pea protein again, and natural flavors. And that's another one I'm not really a fan of. As long with pea fiber. Again, I am not a fan of pea protein and pea starch and things that are quite cheap to manufacture and put into the recipe and for you to pay top dollar for it. What do I think? I am not a massive fan of this. We then move on to Rachel Gray Nutrish natural salmon and brown rice recipe, and this is a dry cat food. Now, salmon, good. Ground rice, a big no. Corn gluten meal, a big no. Fish meal, okay. Brown rice, no brown rice. Poultry fat, poultry. What is poultry precisely? Is it quail? Is it chicken? What does poultry mean? Poultry is quite unspecific. Brewer's dried yeast, dried ground peas, pea protein, natural flavor. In my opinion, this isn't a very good food. We see ground rice, we see corn gluten meal, we see brown rice, we see poultry fat. How unspecific, how inflammatory can certain ingredients get, in my own opinion? You know, it's not the best. We go on to Instinct, and this is the original grain-free recipe with real chicken freeze, dried, raw, coated dry cat food, and that is a big of a mouthful if you ask me. We get chicken and chicken meal, pretty good. Turkey meal, good. Fish meal, good. Peas, okay. Chicken fat, good. Tapioca, okay. Natural flavor, not a massive fan. Dried tomato pumice, and then we get onto carrots, apples, cranberries, etc., etc. We have a pretty good set of ingredients here, like chicken meal, turkey meal, fish meal, chicken fat, etc., etc. It does set it back, the peas, the tapioca, and the natural flavor, but if you compare this food with some of the others, this is a pretty good food in the grand scheme of things. Is it perfect? No, it isn't perfect, but it isn't bad. We go on to Reveal, and this is the natural, complete and balanced grain-free chicken recipe. I love the term complete and balanced. I mean, you wouldn't see that in human food. Is your food complete and balanced? Because mine isn't. No one's is. So complete and balanced is a bit of a misnomer or a marketing term. The ingredients: chicken meal, good. Peas, lentils, chicken fat, good. Chickpeas, okay. Flaxseed, natural flavor. Again, I'm not a fan of natural flavor. This food seems to be pretty on the mediocre to okay cat food. Chicken and chicken meal are always good. Peas and lentils and natural flavor set it back. All in all, with the amount of rubbish, in my opinion, that we have been seeing, this is not a bad option for your cat, to be perfectly honest. We go into the Blue Buffalo, and this is the chicken recipe, and it's a grain-free cat food. Now, the ingredients seem to be pretty specific from the go. Deboned chicken, something I like. Chicken meal, not as specific as deboned chicken, but okay. Pea protein, not a fan of pea protein. I want my protein to come from chicken, not from peas. We get into tapioca starch, peas, fish meal, dried egg product, chicken fat, pea fiber, natural flavor, and a bunch of other ingredients. Blue Buffalo seems to have a bit of a dichotomy when it comes to their cat food, and deboned chicken and chicken meal are all pretty good. I'm not a fan of the pea protein. Again, I want my cat to get all his protein from fresh meat if possible, because that will contain the essential taurine he needs to see, and cats need to get pregnant and to do all the lovely things, or not they do. So this is an okay food. It's an okay food for the price. I don't know, you probably have to be the judge here. We go into the 9 Lives Daily Essentials with chicken, beef and salmon, and this is another dry cat food. The ingredients start with a car crash, whole ground corn in a carnivore's diet. Chicken byproduct meal is a subpar option from chicken. Corn gluten meal, again, we don't like to see corn gluten meal. Soybean meal, whole wheat, not a fan. Beef fat, meat and bone meal, animal digest, etc, etc. Not a fan of ground corn. Chicken byproduct meal, corn gluten meal, soybean meal, whole wheat. Not a fan at all. I'm really sorry. I don't think this is a very good food. We go on to something extremely popular and a controversial one. Royal Canin, and this is a vet prescription diet, and it contains hydrolyzed protein. Again, hydrolyzation is the breaking down of molecules so that they get absorbed by your feline friend a lot easier. The ingredients, however, say a bit otherwise. The first ingredient is brewer's rice. Rice in a carnivore's diet. Hydrolyzed soy protein. Hydrolyzed soy protein. Not coming from an animal, but coming from soy, the protein here. Chicken fat, okay. Powdered cellulose, which aids digestion. Natural flavors, again, very unspecific. Dried plain beet pulp, etc, etc. So the best thing from this whole recipe is first the bag, which looks pretty good, and the chicken fat. Everything else is pretty much a waste in my opinion. Brewer's rice, absolutely not in cat food, and not as the first ingredient. If it were 1% of the bag of food, then okay, but being the first ingredient, absolutely not. Hydrolyzed soy protein, again, I want my protein to come from animal sources. That's what I like, and that's what you should like too. Chicken fat, okay. Natural flavors, too unspecific. I am out. I am sorry. We then get into another controversial one, Hill's prescription diets, and this is urinary care with chicken dry cat food, and we see again that the bag of cat food is pretty nice. The ingredients are chicken, which is good, whole grain corn, which is the second ingredient, not a fan, corn gluten meal, absolutely not, whole grain wheat, brewer's rice, pork fat, chicken meal, egg product, pork flavor, etc, etc. So we have a mix of ingredients here. We see some that are okay, like chicken or pork fat or chicken meal, and then we have absolute no-nos whenever it comes to a carnivore's diet. Whole grain corn, corn gluten meal, whole grain wheat. I mean, you wouldn't feed lions or trout or tigers on whole grain corn and corn gluten meal and brewer's rice. So why do you think your cat should get such ingredients? Absolutely not. I am out, in my opinion. Not a good food at all. We go on to Friskies, and this is the surfing and turfing. What a great name. Excellent job, marketing team. And the bag of cat food, again, looks wonderful. All these grilled meats look pretty nice. We go on to ground yellow corn as the first ingredient. Absolutely not. Chicken byproduct meal, not chicken, but chicken byproduct meal. Soybean meal, corn gluten meal, beef fat, we get meat and bone meal, liver flavor, from where? From liver. But what animal? We don't know. They don't tell you. They won't tell you. Ocean fish meal, etc., etc. Yellow corn, chicken byproduct meal, corn gluten meal. It's a no from me. Your cat deserves better. We then move on to temptations, or dreamies as it's called or known here in the UK. We go on to chicken byproduct meal. Chicken byproduct meal is quite an eloquent ingredient. Wheat, whole grain corn, soybean meal, brewer's rice, animal fat, meat and bone meal, natural flavor, chicken, corn gluten meal, etc., etc. Wheat flour, wheat, whole grain corn, brewer's rice, animal fat, too unspecific, meat and bone meal, absolutely not a fan. We then move on to Purina 1 and Plus Indoor Advantage. So your cat would have an advantage over the other cats, I would imagine. And this helps maintain a healthy weight with salmon and chicken byproduct meal, which all are pretty okay, rice, corn gluten meal, soybean meal, whole grain corn, soy protein isolate, powdered cellulose, soybean hulls, etc., etc. Absolutely not a fan of rice and corn gluten meal, and whenever I see those ingredients is an automatic no from me. There is no further investigation because I know the whole grain corn doesn't belong in cat food, so why feed it? We now review the Purina Proplan chicken and rice formula with probiotics, and this is a high protein cat food. Remember that all the protein I want from my cat needs to be coming from animal sources. Chicken, rice, corn gluten meal, poultry byproduct meal, wheat flour, dried egg product, beef fat, soy protein concentrate, and natural flavor. Now, I don't like the natural flavor. I don't like rice. I don't like corn gluten meal, and I do not like poultry byproduct meal. Those are way too unspecific ingredients. I would not feel comfortable not knowing what I give my cat. Now, there's a few things I want you to take on board from this video, and these are very, very important. The first one is that cats are notoriously fussy eaters. So if you have a cat on one of the foods that we have discussed and you see that your cat cannot be on whole wheat or ground rice or corn gluten meal, and you do not like those ingredients, but that will be the only food your cat will eat, you are going to have to transition patiently your cat onto a better food, and that can absolutely be done. You have to be gradual, you have to be persistent, and you have to be doing it little by little. You can try different things, but it can absolutely be done. There is no argument for keeping a cat with a bad food, knowing that the cat food is not biologically appropriate, and some of these foods contain ingredients that absolutely not biologically appropriate. I also want to leave you with some very specific words of advice, and this is that your cat's overall health is intrinsically linked with their ability to get good food and good ingredients, and that comes from you. So whether you are giving your cat too many treats or a biologically inappropriate diet, it is incumbent upon you to do the research, to try to feed your cat better, to get your cat not to have any of these diseases like obesity, diabetes, pancreatitis. A lot of these diseases can be avoided by feeding your cat better, and it's never too late to change. We see people all the time that say to us, my cat is now 15 and I don't want to change their food. I think cats can always do better, and it is incumbent upon us to provide the best nutrition possible for our feline friends. It is of course impossible for me to review the thousands and thousands of cat foods that are on every single market and every single country, but it is very important that you see the difference, that you recognize whenever you look at a set of ingredients, the wheat from the chaff, as it were. You need to look out for good ingredients and bad ingredients, and you should be able to put your cat on a better food and see whether that has a beneficial impact on your cat's health. Because I'll tell you one thing, your cat will be a lot better off. The coat will be better, the teeth will be better, the stools will be a lot better, the cat's overall health will be a lot better off if you feed the cat a biologically appropriate diet, and if you wean them off all these high glycemic carbohydrates and byproducts of the human ingenuity whenever it comes to pet foods. Corporations are there to take your money, and you should be very picky, choosy whenever it comes to giving your dollars away to these companies. You want to get value for your money, in my opinion. Let me know what you feed. Let me know whether you have any comments. Let me know whether I have left something out, and let me know what you think. And if you really like this content about cats and you want me to discuss further topics, please leave them below and I'll do my best to make a video about it. Please like and please subscribe. It really does help a lot.